Let's look at a few examples of tribalism which are troubling to say the least. Those observations were gathered by Sebastian Junger in his excellent book, Tribe. Many early European colonial settlers decided to live with Native American tribes. When the first English settlers arrived in America in the 17th century, they found the land utterly different from the country they had left behind. Their new home was a vast wilderness populated by tribes whose lifestyles resembled that of an earlier age. Many Americans preferred the indigenous lifestyle. They emulated the Native Americans' tradition and married into their tribes. Sometimes they even fought alongside their adopted communities. Movement in the other direction was rare. Contemporaries were perplexed that so few Native Americans left their tribes and took up European customs. Benjamin Franklin, one of the founding fathers of the United States, was among those baffled by this phenomenon. Native American children, he wrote, raised by Europeans rarely showed any great attachment to modern culture. In most cases, they decided to return to their tribe. Americans who'd been captured by Native Americans, Franklin added, were a different case altogether. Many of them wanted nothing more than to continue living with the tribe that had taken them prisoner. This was underlined in the 1763 when a Swiss general named Henri Bouquet led an English sortie into Native American territory. The raid was a response to the frequent attacks mounted by various tribes on the rapidly expanding European settlements. Bouquet's mission was a military success. His first demand was that the defeated Native Americans return all European prisoners to the colonies. But news of their liberation wasn't gladly received by the captives. They were sullen and confused. They had no interest in rejoining their old families. The Native Americans were heartbroken at the loss of their recently adopted tribe members. They followed them on horseback as they were reluctantly led back to the European settlements. But a reunion wasn't long in coming in many cases. Missing the tribal lifestyle, former prisoners often left the colonies behind and went back to their Native American families. War often brings out the best in people and has surprising psychological effects. During the Second World War, the British government worried about the civilian population and how it would respond to the bombing raids. Its biggest concern was an outbreak of mass hysteria. So what happened once the bombs started falling? The response was anything like the gloomy forecast. Many rose to the occasion. Paradoxical as it might seem, war can bring out the best in people. German carpet bombing of London began on September 7, 1940. The campaign targeted civilian areas and killed hundreds every day. But calm prevailed, and the city's inhabitants remained upbeat. Stealing and looting was rare. Londoners continued to go about their normal business in what became known as the Blitz. When the sirens sounded, they retreated to the air raid shelters without any great commotion. The psychological resilience of the British people was even more surprising. The government had predicted that around 4 million people would need to be admitted into psychiatric hospitals as a result of war trauma. Psychiatric wards should have been overflowing during the Blitz, but something else was happening entirely. They were getting emptier. Suicide also tends to become much rarer during conflicts. In peaceful areas, by contrast, depression among men became more common, presumably because they couldn't take part in the fighting. War creates special bonds, and that makes returning to normal life especially hard for veterans. While tragedy and war cement deep bonds and bring people together in a way that modern society can't match. Take soldiers. Camaraderie defines their experience of the army. Their bond with fellow soldiers makes them member of a tribe. For many of them, it was the first time in their lives that they were collaborating as equals rather than competing against one another. That's one of the things soldiers love about the army. Constant danger from a common enemy creates a degree of intimacy between people that's unusual in other contexts. Survival means trusting others with your life. Many Elderly Londoners are nostalgic about the Blitz because of their memories of this kind of bond. But that's not something unique to war. Interviews with the survivors of the 1980s AIDS epidemic paint a similar picture. Many of them miss that sense of solidarity in today's individualistic society. The absence of tight social bonds also makes returning home hard for soldiers. They suddenly find themselves in a society divided into small and isolated family units, lacking a communal spirit. To conclude, we can see that the modern lifestyle, however comfortable, safe and affluent, has progressively and through a long process lessened the bond we used to share with one another. Not such a long time ago, there was no individual outside of the group. Be it a small tribe bonded by survival or a congregation bonded by religion, we used to function as the group as a priority. We enjoy great technology, and most of us in the West can enjoy a whole life without directly experiencing war, trauma, and natural disasters. Yet, it seems that this is counterintuitive to our DNA and our nature. Primal societies such as the native Indians were more dangerous and less materially comfortable, but they were also more egalitarian. Being a nomad forces you to keep with you only the strict minimum, which made members in the tribe more or less equal. Women had the liberty to get married, divorce, or remain single without any stigma or pressure they might have suffered from in the West. Only a small portion of labor time was needed for the survival of the tribe. I do not include warfare in this statement. A study carried out in the 1960s found that tribe members of the Kang people worked no more than 12 hours a week to support their lifestyle. Soldiers and citizens who have experienced the war directly, battleground for the soldiers or bombing for the citizen, come to miss the trying times of war that brought them together. This is not an attempt to romanticize native Indian tribes or war. The native Indians were no less cruel than the Westerners during the war, and betrayal of the tribe usually resulted in death. The Second World War was terrible and horrendous. We should be grateful every day to be able to enjoy the safety we take for granted, but it seems that we threw out the baby with the bathwater. Adversity makes us stronger and more caring for one another as a collective. Capitalism does not need minimalist groups of people who have their own identity. Capitalism needs individuals who consume and adopt the identity of the brands who have poured millions in marketing or propaganda. This is also not a rant against capitalism and its excesses. We live with our times, with the good and the not so good. The good we enjoy is that safety, that affluence, that comfort, and that amazing technology. And perhaps the not so good is the 9-to-5 routine of the lonely, malnourished, sun-starved, sedentary, consumer-oppressed men and women of the West. Please comment, write down below your struggles and what subjects you want to learn about. Please help us make better content for you guys. Subscribe and click the bell button to be notified. Stay in touch with us. Videos come out every week. Don't miss them. Thanks a lot for your support. Get one or more of our ebooks. Some are free, some are almost free. Either way, you will benefit tremendously from them. Check the link in the description box below and don't forget to be inspired and inspire.